Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. And today we're going to try to get the authorization working, the user login for our app. And so I've done some troubleshooting today, and I think I've ruled out the email as the issue. So yesterday we were thinking that there was maybe a port that was blocked that was stopping emails from working, but that's not the case. So I was able to test that out, and on the master branch I don't have the login implemented, but the email is there when you submit the form. I was going to show you, but I can't log in right now. So if we could log in, there's a form. Alright, so we can get to it on the master branch. I can submit it successfully and I can get the email. So that works. So it's not the email. So we have to look elsewhere. So I did kind of scatter. I scattered console logs all over the place throughout some of our node files here. And I didn't come up with anything definitive, but I think it may have something to do with the database connection. Let me show you my my logs here. So this is what I keep getting. Let's see. Here we go. So this error is coming from Mongo Client.js. That's the error that I keep getting every time I try to log in. So between what I was able to do with all the console logs and being able to successfully send emails and this error message, that leads me to believe that maybe it has something to do with how we're interacting with that database. So I figure that's not a bad place to start with our troubleshooting. So there's not much to see here. Just, we can submit. Let's see. Oh, actually, let me restart this because we're not going to get. This will refresh. Alright, let me check the live chat before we get started, and then I'll start my timer, and we'll do 25 minutes of, in this case, troubleshooting. We may or may not be writing that much code. So you can see this is what happens when you submit. We just keep getting the same error. Let me. Sorry, just getting everything set up. Hey everybody, you can see I was saying hey there in the live chat. Sebastian is asking if the pull request he submitted to fix that UI glitch that was happening with the drop down for to log out. So I did merge in that pull request. As far as I know, it was working alright. I didn't have time to test it that much, so it was only really minimal changes just to CSS, so I figured there's no harm in merging it in. But to tell you the truth, my browser stack has been insanely slow lately. So if you're not familiar with browser stack, you can run you can test your websites on all different types of browser operating system device combinations. So it's like through your browser you can log into these other devices and test it. So for whatever reason, it's just been really weird and slow and hard to test. So I didn't test it yet just because I'm tired of the frustration of working with that. So anyway, it's in the master branch now, so if anyone has the code on your machine and you're running a non-Mac, please let me know if you see anything weird when you click on that menu to log out. But I think it should be fine. Let's see. Okay. All right, so I have some comments pertaining to the troubleshooting. So let's just go right into that and check out these comments. I'm going to start my timer. After this 25 minutes is up, I'm going to take 5 minutes and go through the questions in the live chat. So if you ask a question, I will get to it eventually. Just hang in there, and you'll get your answer. If you can't stick around for the answer, just check out the recording of this video, which will be available here on the freeCodeCamp YouTube channel shortly after I finish the stream. All right, so here we got. Okay, so Paco asked, did you try to connect your Mongo on another port? Okay. No, I haven't. Let's see. And Harsha is asking about a user. I've already created a user in the Mongo database, so I'm using mlab. Just the free version of mlab, just to set up a testing database. So I do have a user created, and that's the user that I'm working with for my database. So where you have to put in your database user and password, that's what I am using. Okay, Sebastian followed up with initially talking about pull request. Yes, the white space was gone, so there's no white space anymore there on a Mac. So that issue was cleared up. So thank you. Let's see. Okay, so I'm trying to sort out. Harsha is the one that that coded this. Pretty much everything having to do with the back end was done by Harsha. So I'm trying to read these comments, helping me out here. So Harsha's saying check your .env file. Okay, so what do I need to check? The string. I have checked the string. It's worth double checking. Oh, okay. Harsha's saying to use his connection string. Okay. Let's see. I have my .env file open on my other screen, obviously, so that I don't show everybody all my stuff. Okay. Okay, cool. So Harsha's going to message me the info so that I can try it with his database info. That's actually a good idea, and then that should help us narrow down the issue. All right. Okay, so let me see. While I'm waiting on Harsha to send me that info. Okay, cool. I just got it. Anyway, I was gonna say when we probably later on, whenever I finish up with the coding and we do question and answer session, I'm gonna let you know how everything went with that React Native app. Just to make a long story short, it passed the code review, so it's officially accepted. I've completed all the projects for that nano degree, which is awesome. There's definitely a lot of work that I still would like to do on it, and I got some really great feedback from my reviewers, so I might actually turn that into some issues on the GitHub repo, and then if anybody would like to work on it with me, then at least you'll know some of the things that need work. All right, so I got Harsha. I got your info. I'm going to paste that now into my .env file. Okay, so I'm saving that, and let me restart this. So let's restart this and wait for that to refresh. Okay, all right, let's give this a shot now. Submitting. Okay, still waiting. Okay, not sent. Let's see. Yep, we got the same error. Okay, so since this same login info works for Harsha on his machine, then it probably doesn't have anything to do with my login credentials for the database. It has something to do, I guess, with my development environment. So, well, at least we've ruled that out. Okay. Okay, Harsha's saying hard code the string for now. Okay, I can hard code it. I'll do that on my other screen. Let's see. Actually, yeah. Okay. Oops. Let me refresh that. Okay. Still same error. Well, almost the same. We had a bit more up here the last time. Error connection MongoDB, Mongo error. Huh. Interesting. I'm going to try that one more time. I'm just wondering why we got different messages. Okay. Okay. All right. Oops. I'm going to get off of this. I don't want that Auth.js to refresh and show Harsha's. Try to use memory store for now. I'll go from Express session. Okay. Is it Bulletin React? Yeah. So Dragon Hunter, the repo is Bulletin React. Okay, so Harsh is saying try to use the memory store for now. Mongo from Express session. Okay, you're gonna have to help me out with that because this is the first time I've used Mongo in Express. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to remove Mongo from Express session. Make that bigger. Sorry, that was probably too small for everybody. I had it smaller earlier. There we go. Okay. Okay, so Harsh is saying I'm removing. So I'm not sure exactly where to remove. If I remove this, will that do the trick? Are there other places where I need to remove it from? I'm going to take that out now. And figured I'd get some sort of error. Okay, so first we remove that. Okay, cool. Okay, so there's another place where you have to do this. Let's see. Oh, okay. Dragon Hunter, the branch I'm on right now it's actually Harshit's pull request. Let me send you what PR is that? 44. Let me send you the git command. I'm going to type out the git command. If anybody does want to check this out, but you're not familiar with how to do this, I'm just going to type it right into the live chat. It's git fetch origin pull 44 head, and then Auth. Okay, so git fetch origin pull and then 44. I'll put this up on the screen too if anybody wants to see this later on. So this is what I'm doing. Git fetch origin pull. So you're doing pull request number 44 and then head, and then at the end here you can name this whatever you want, but that's what the branch is going to be called on your local machine. So this is what I named it on my local machine, but you can name it whatever you want. After you pull this down, you can switch to that branch. Make sure you run npm install or yarn because there's a lot of packages, and then you should be able to work on this, or at least follow along with what we're doing. Okay. Alright, so let me go back to this. John Hansen says, I remember seeing something when using React with Express and connecting through MongoDB. There can be a shared connection issue between Express and React, which can default on the same localhost 3000. Okay, so maybe we're dealing with a known issue here. That's good to know, because there'll probably be some information about how to fix it. Download Mongo DB Compass. Actually, where was? Let me go back one. So there was one other thing that I had to comment out. Oh, let's connect to the database from a GUI first. Okay. DB Compass. Be able to could I use, instead of Compass, the Mongo DB Compass, could I just use the command line? Could I use the shell? Let me pull one over to my other screen here. Harsha saying it will be very hard as you don't know Mongo that well. Well, I think we should. I mean, all we really need to test is whether or not I can actually connect, right? So that might be the only reason I'm asking, is because I don't want to go through the to get the free version of Mongo Compass, Mongo DB Compass is like, you gotta fill out all your contact info and everything. So I was just gonna try to avoid that, and I wanted to download the shell anyway. Oh, here we go. I found another place where it's gonna let me download it without that. All right, I'll try that then. I don't know what that other page was, but it wanted a lot of contact info. Okay. Ah, yeah, now it's making me do this again. Mongo shell. Sorry, I'm trying to install the Mongo shell, but the documentation page was just saying how to use it and not how to install it. Oh, cool. I think I could just use brew to install this. Alright, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to try to use Homebrew to install this. Okay, cool. Let's see. Alright, Harsha, I got your link. I'm going to open this on my other screen. Okay, so if you're just joining us, you're not sure what's going on, we're installing some tools to help us test our database connection. So I have a few things going right now. So whatever tool ends up getting downloaded faster is what we're going to use. Alright, so the Mongo Compass has 3 minutes left on the download. Homebrew is now about 15% done downloading Mongo, so so we'll see what happens. It's a race. So if you've never used Homebrew, here's what's going on here. So if you're on a Mac, you can use Homebrew to install packages. So there are different reasons why you might want to use Homebrew, but it can be useful. So I just ran brew update, which just updated Homebrew. It's good if you don't run Homebrew often, it's a good idea to just do a brew update every time you're going to install something new. And then I'm doing brew install MongoDB. So we're waiting on that. Looks like it's still saying 3 minutes left on the Mongo Compass. It's looking like the Homebrew install might win the race here. Okay. Let's see. Harsha is saying check out all changes. You might have done some breaking change. I mean, it's possible. All I really added in were console logs, and I think I actually got rid of all those. So it should be, everything should be exactly the same. I can always pull the branch down. Again. Let's see where I'm at. Okay. All right. So we reverted. All right. So we do have Brian's asking about Homebrew. So while we're waiting for this to install, we may as well talk about Homebrew. So Homebrew helps you. It's been a while since I even read anything about Homebrew, but from what I remember when I was first researching this, Homebrew helps you use. So you install these packages, but you do it in a way that protects your system. So I don't know if sandboxing is the right word, but I guess it's somewhat similar to that. Also, it makes it really easy to update things. So, like, if you install Yarn through Homebrew and you want to update Yarn, you just run the update through Homebrew. So there's no. Sometimes Yarn, for whatever reason, can be tricky. At least it's been tricky for me. Probably because on some of my machines I use Homebrew, and some of my machines I installed it other ways. So. Anyway, I'm going to do my 5-minute break now, and I'll just continue talking about Homebrew for a minute here. But it just kind of makes it easy to be able. I mean, you can see a lot of the packages here that are available. It just kind of simplifies installing packages. You know, you don't have to go like read the docs on how to manually install any of these. It's there and it works. So anyway, I don't use it for everything, but it is convenient for some things. Alright, let me scroll up and see what questions you all have and try to answer as many as I can here in this little break. Ogus says, I can't learn vanilla JavaScript. Could you guys help me? Yeah, I would say if you're having trouble with vanilla JavaScript, I mean, you can certainly ask any questions here in the live chat or ask me questions on Twitter or something like that. But I think checking out freeCodeCamp's JavaScript exercises is a good way to get the hang of all the syntax and run through some algorithms and things. There are other great resources. So Code Academy has some nice like in-browser tutorials, and there's certainly a lot of YouTube videos. There's a great JavaScript series here on freeCodeCamp's channel that Bo recorded. So check that out. There's also some good open source books. So the You Don't Know JS series is available for free on GitHub. That's a great series. So there's a lot of different things you could do to learn JavaScript. It kind of depends on your preferred learning style. I would say for me, I like the videos and I like reading and all that and the in-browser exercises, but I don't feel like I really get the concepts until I start to use it in my own projects and need to modify things, based on the project requirements. Then I find myself really getting the hang of these different concepts. So no matter what you do to learn at first, I would try to spend some time every day, just a little bit of time every day, actually using those concepts if you can. It'll be much easier to learn those concepts and remember them if you do a little bit every day, as opposed to maybe taking one day a week and spending hours learning. So that's just kind of some basic advice. If you're having issues with a specific part of JavaScript, let me know, or let us know here in the live chat, and maybe we could help you with that. Okay, Blake asked about EndRock at the beginning. EndRock is the service that I'm using to be able to let you all see on your computer in your browser the projects that I'm working on locally, and you can inspect them. However, it's not really going to be of that much use right now because of the way we have the servers running. So we will be using it in the future, but for right now, it's not really going to work. And it has nothing to do with EndRock. EndRock's working perfectly. It's just what we have going on right now with the project. Fernando says, I'm from Argentina. I need a job. Fernando, let's see. If you're on Twitter and if you send me a tweet with, if you tag me in a tweet that maybe has a link to your GitHub repository or your portfolio website, and just say in the tweet, like, I'm looking for work, this is what I do, I'd be happy to retweet you. I don't have that many followers. I'm like just under 600 right now, but maybe some of my followers may retweet as well, and some of my followers do have a lot more followers on their account, so that may help. I don't know of any jobs available right now, and I'm not really in a position to make hiring decisions on my own where I'm work right now, but I'd be more than happy to just try to get your name out there on Twitter a little bit more. So my a link to my Twitter account, or at least my name on Twitter, is in the description for this video. Okay. Alright, so that timer's up. Let's do one more session. Hopefully we can get something figured out in this session. So let me scroll back down and let me grab, let's see, I have all my database info open on another screen. So let me grab this and paste this in here. Okay, alright, so now that I have the Mongo shell, I'm going to let me get all the info in here. This will just take me just a second. I'm gonna build the string that I need to put in there on my other screen, and then I'll paste it into the terminal. Okay, so I'm not going to do this on the screen. I'm doing this on another screen because I have all my database info in here. But right now it's in the process of connecting. So let's see what happens. I don't know how long it normally takes to connect. So let's see. Okay, actually, interesting. Okay, so I did get an error that gives me a little bit more information here. Okay, so it's definitely the problem, I think, is with connecting to the database. So let's see. Oh, there's a lot of capital letters in the live chat right now, so let's see what Harsha is saying. Okay, so Harsh is saying that we should run a local database. Alright, so let's do this. Start DB. Okay. Okay. Alright, so we've started MongoDB. Let's see. Change string to Mongo localhost bulletin. Okay. All right, let's, oops. Okay, so let me repeat what's going on in the live chat here. Sorry, I think I've been pretty silent trying to read this. So for everybody that can't see the live chat, so what we're going to try to do is locally run a database, so Mongo DB, which we can do now since we installed everything. So we're going to start this. So we've run on my other screen. I guess I could pull this over now because I don't have any special. There we go. Okay, so let me. The zoom on iTerm is a little odd, but anyway. All right, so I was pasting the wrong stuff in here, but basically, and Harsha, let me know. So I did brew services start MongoDB, and it started a database, and then I mistakenly pasted this in here before I saw your comment about where to put that. So let's MongoDB localhost bulletin. Yeah, okay, so I've done the brew services start MongoDB. And I'm going to change the .m file. Okay, so I've changed the database in the .env file. Alright, now let's restart the server. Whoops, I have it here. Oh no, sorry. Alright, start this up. Great. Alright, as soon as this refreshes, we'll test it out. Okay, I'm seeing some hopeful things in the console. Yes! Alright. Okay, so it says the email has been sent. Let me verify that. I have my email up on the other screen. And yes, okay, I have the token. And let me grab this token and we'll paste it in over here so everyone can see. Awesome. All right, really cool. So let me recap. I guess I didn't need to zoom in that much, but let's recap what just happened. So it seems that our whole problem for the last, or at least not our problem, it worked for Harsha right away, but for me, for some reason, and possibly this has to do with my network here, although I did try it on another network, so maybe it's not. I'm not sure what the issue is, but for whatever reason, we couldn't connect to the database that I was trying to run through a service called MLab. So instead, we installed Mongo with Homebrew, and then we just started up locally a database. Then I replaced the local database in our DB host in our .env file. And that's the .env file is where you put information that you want to pull in as variables, but you want to keep that secret. So you don't put the .env file in your GitHub repo, and nobody ever sees that. Okay, it allows you to pull that into your source code, but it remains hidden, and you can still have things in your repository on GitHub, and you don't have to risk exposing API keys or passwords or anything like that. So anyway, so we changed our .env file, and then we're able to connect to the database. So the authorization works as stated, exactly how it was supposed to work. So thanks, Harsha. Great job on that. So awesome. This is awesome. So what I want to let's test some of this out, right? Great. So you see, we were able to log in. Let's check out where this is being stored at. Do we have this on local storage or in cookies? Cool. All right. So, okay, Harsha's saying we should test the form submission too. That's a good idea. So the form submission was working before. Let's test it again just to make sure. I'm just going to put some things in here and submit. All right, submitted. Let's double check my email. Yep, I got it. Actually, let's try to do that with a file as well. So let's see. Let's send. I want to send something. Okay, this is reasonable. A bulletin is something that a PDF is something that'll probably get sent frequently. So. All right, and announcements. Okay, cool. And the attachment did come through. Great. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so all that works. All right, so we may as well merge this now. So let's go back to our console, and what I'm going to do first, and I always do this. Always do this when I have branches that I'm merging. Is first we're going to merge master into our other branch, and then if something really goes wrong, at least we haven't messed up our master branch, right? So let's do git merge master. All right, we're already up to date. I actually merged beforehand, so I was almost positive that was going to work. Sometimes you may have merge conflicts. In this case, there was nothing. Harsha does a good job of keeping everything merged. So anyway, let's do a git checkout. Master, and now we'll git merge auth. Great. Okay, let me just double check. We should be all up to date with our packages, but never hurts to run it again. Great, we are up to date, and now I'll do a git push origin master. All right, that's going to push our code up to GitHub, and then if anybody happens to be looking at this pull request, it will change from open to merge whenever we do this. So we don't even have to do anything in GitHub. Right from the command line, it's going to be taken care of. All right, great. Okay, now here's the thing, though. There's some things that will probably change just so that we can all work on this and test it out. So, for instance, right now you have to put in a Franciscan University email address. Now, granted, you could have it sent to MailTrap. So, like, there are ways, but I think it's probably a good idea to make some changes. Hopefully, I can get those changes done today. Probably not during the stream. Just to make it possible, I guess, to skip the login, since we know it works, basically, so you all can get in and, you know, locally on your machines and do, you know, check out other things and do other type of work. So we'll see about that. So for now, just be aware that it's going to make you log in if you try to download this. Okay. So let me bring over, I guess I don't have to bring over, I just want to grab one more pull request, and that's the last one that we currently have open, which it feels really good to get all these pull requests taken care of. I've been so behind on getting things merged in. Really, it was this request that we just sorted out now that was making me fall behind the most. I just kept trying to troubleshoot and didn't realize until earlier today that it was most likely a database thing. Okay, so let's grab this pull request 47, and this is where Harsha implemented the masonry layout. If you're not familiar with what that is, hopefully you'll see an example in just a minute. So let's do a git fetch origin pull 47, since it's pull request 47, head, and then we'll call this H masonry. All right. You don't have to name it H masonry. You can name it whatever you want, but I kind of like to put the first letter of the name of the person who's doing the pull request, and then it just helps me keep straight who did what, and it helps me to be able to remember and give credit to the right person for doing those pull requests. So now let's check out. Let's do a git checkout, that new branch that we just created, masonry, and now. Whoops! I keep forgetting I have the have this on the other screen. Direct masonry component. Oops! I got to do a yarn. It's a good idea to just run yarn all the time when you're pulling that down, because if you don't need it, it won't hurt anything. But if you do need it, it'll prevent you from maybe trying to troubleshoot something that you really shouldn't have to worry about, because it should have been all taken care of. Oops, result review. Let's try to restart before we do anything else. Okay, great. This is another thing that I found just from experience. When you switch to a new branch and you run yarn, sometimes it's a good idea just to restart your server. I know I've been very frustrated for a minute when things don't work, and then luckily just a restart has been able to fix everything. So try to do those two things: run yarn or run npm install, and then restart the server before you try to troubleshoot anything. It could save you a lot of time. I know I've wasted a lot of time when I've forgotten to do that. Okay, so anyway, here's what we're talking about with masonry layout. Check that out. That looks cool, right? That all the cards just kind of flow. So we talked about CSS grid, so maybe it would be a good idea to explain the differences between what's going on here and CSS grid, because certainly CSS grid is much more simple to implement. But what we had when we had the grid was, first, initially when we implemented the grid, we had these big gaps. So we would have, 1, 2, 3, and then our second row of 3 wouldn't start till here. So it looked okay for these cards, but then for this card there was this big white space. Then Harsha was able to set a uniform height for these, and that got rid of our gaps. But then on cards like this, we would have a huge white space within the card. So what masonry does, and behind the scenes what's going on here is it's using some JavaScript to position these. So this is not CSS positioning. Each one of these actually has a position. You can actually see it happening in the console. Let's see. Let me try to get to the right spot here, and okay. I guess the first card's not really that useful to look at because. All right, so let me make this a bit bigger so y'all can see it, and then it'll be really obvious what's going on behind the scenes in just a second. So let's bring this over. I'm looking right here at this positioning. So it's absolute position. Right now it's left 426 pixels, top 0. So as we move, you can see the pixels changing. So that's 380, 350. So, and now we have our top changed. So the absolute positioning is constantly changing based on the screen size. So that's the difference there. Is the CSS grid, of course, is CSS based positioning. This is certainly, it uses CSS, right? We're saying position absolute, left, top. Those are CSS attributes, but JavaScript is directly controlling those. So anyway, that's how you deal with masonry. Masonry can be a pain at times. I know on previous projects, we had implemented this with React before, and it took a while to get that. That was with Project 1. It took a little while to get it working, and I've tried to implement this with some jQuery stuff before. It can be a pain at times, especially if you have images. To get the positioning correct, you need to be able to have everything get repositioned whenever the images actually load. There's a helper library for that as well. But there's a lot of different things that could go wrong when you're using this, but I think the end result is worth it. And there's cool things you could do with this, like filtering, to have things just switch around, on the fly. It looks nice. There's different types of transitions that you could use, so there's different options. So anyway, really nice, great work on that, Harsha. I really like that. And you can see, our list view is still just regular list view, but when we go back to grid view, much nicer. So great, that's great job. And we should have the same thing here when we go to our categories as well. Right now we don't really have enough posts to be able to see, the full grid in action here, but very nice. Okay, let me check my time. Alright, so I'm almost done with this 25 minutes, so I'm just going to go into the live chat now and answer some of your questions. So basically, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We've successfully troubleshooted what was wrong with our auth and with our login system, and the problem ended up being just for some reason I can't connect to a remote database. So we had to run it locally. So everything seems to be working. With that, we're able to get this grid layout in, and I guess we could merge that in right now as well. Since I have a minute left, it'll only take a minute to merge. So let's go ahead and merge that while we're here. So first, let's do a git merge master. Alright, we have a conflict. Alright, this is cool. I'm really glad we had a conflict. Okay, Harsha's saying to try the logout. Okay, cool. I'll try the logout. Let me finish this merge and then we'll try that. Okay. Harsha also wants to make sure that it is known that he had to use materialize for masonry. Yeah, I did see that comment in your pull request. So Harsha's saying it's a real pain. Yeah, I do. I appreciate all the work. I mean, I know I've I've had a lot of pain in dealing with this as well, both with React and with without React, with some jQuery based single page apps that I made before I started streaming. So I definitely appreciate all the work that went into that. So let's see. Oops. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. All right, where's our merge conflict at? It was in that CSS file, was it not? Okay. All right, cool. So here, if you've never seen a conflict, a merge conflict, it can look different depending on what editor you're using. But basically, you're going to have sections from each. And then you're going to have a section where it gets kind of telling you, here's what we think it should look like, and so you get to choose what you want. So let's check out what's going on here. So our head is going to be our current branch. So our current branch is that masonry branch. So whatever branch you're on is the head. And then our other branch is our master branch. So that's what we have currently on our master branch. So probably what we want to do is keep whatever's in the master branch. So yeah, we don't want all this stuff. So what we're going to do then is use master. Okay, so you won't always have that option. It does depend on what you're doing with your or what kind of editor you're using, what packages that you have. So you may have to manually manually delete that. But in this case, we can just click use me and it handles it for us, which is nice. So now we have this padding right, important. I do believe we want to keep that. But let's see. Padding right. Oh no, do we need that? We have it on body. Let me double check. So let's double check in. I guess I can just run this on the on my other screen. Let me double check quickly what we have here. Index.js. Oops. I need index.css. Okay, we are going to keep that. We are going to keep this. Right? Let me check the live chat quickly. Sebastian will know more than anyone whether or not we need to keep this. So, Sebastian, if you're still with us in the live chat, let me know. I mean, this is not really a big deal. This is not hard to go back in and change this. Let's see. We'll keep this in for now. If we notice that something weird is happening with it, we can always take it out. But anyway, now I've saved that, and we can see if we go back in here, merging, we're going to commit. So let me double check and make sure. Okay, it was just with index. It'll tell you what files have conflicts. So since it was just index.css, we fixed those conflicts. Let's go in here and git commit. I'm going to do a git commit. I'm going to put the commit message right in line here and say, what do we do? Okay, it's running our tests. Great. Okay, awesome. So the merge has worked. Now let's quickly just double check and make sure everything's working. I don't really have any reason to think that it wouldn't work, but worth a shot. And then we can also test out our log out as well. All right, looks good. Looks good. Great. What else did we have? This, not bad. All right. Wonderful. All right, let's test our log out. Okay, great. We're able to log out, and we'll just test our login. Great. That was nice and quick. We have our token here, and awesome. Logs us right back in. Wonderful. Okay, now let's do git checkout master, and we'll do a git merge h masonry. Awesome. Now we have the masonry branch here, and we can do a git push origin master. Awesome. So now everything should be up to date. We'll have all our pull requests merged for the bulletin React. Wonderful. Okay, we do still have, we have one issue open, and there's certainly more that needs to be done, so maybe I'll try to add some more issues in here. So if anybody would like to work on them, you can work on them. If anybody needs to get those last few pull requests in before for Hacktoberfest to get your t-shirt, maybe I'll try to put in some of them are going to be more difficult, some of the issues, but maybe I'll try to put in some easy ones if anybody's kind of new to coding but still wants to get the pull requests in. Also, I still don't have all my pull requests in, so if anybody has a project that you need some help with and would like me to open a pull request for your project, let me know. Send me a link to your repository, and let me know what you need work on. So now that I've finished my class, I may have a little extra time to work on stuff like that. So probably won't be able to do anything really significant, but you all help me out so much. It'd be cool if I could help you out with something as well. All right, so let me go through the live chat now, and that'll be the last thing that we do. Let's see. So if you have any questions, please put them in the live chat now. I'll do my best to answer all the questions. If you don't have a question, please consider sticking around and helping to answer some of the questions. I'd love to have your expertise to help give the best answers we can to everybody that's asking questions. But if you can't stick around, you can always catch the Q&A session later in the recording. And please join us again tomorrow. Should be around the same time. Today was a little later than normal, but I like to stream around 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll probably end up working on some UI stuff tomorrow. I haven't decided for sure, but maybe we'll work on some of that. We've had some heavy back-end stuff lately, so it might be nice to switch it up, do some front-end CSS work. So, but let me know if anybody has anything specifically they'd really like me to go over tomorrow. Let me know in the live chat right now, or send me a message on Twitter. And if it's doable within the scope of the project, I'd be more than happy to steer the stream in that direction. Okay, let me find where I left off. There we are. Oh, before I forget, yesterday I had, I think it was Harsha asked about freelancing, and then I had someone on Twitter as well ask about freelancing. So we'll see how much time the question and answer takes. Maybe I'll talk about it now, but I've been thinking maybe I should do a short video. I'd put it on my own YouTube channel about my experience as a freelancer and my advice to anybody that wants to be a freelance web developer. So if you think you might be interested in that, let me know. If nobody's really interested, maybe I won't take the time to do it, but otherwise, if you think it might be helpful for you, I did freelance. I was a freelance web developer for 3 years, and I still do freelancing on the side. So I'm certainly not the best there is, but I have a lot of experience, about 5 years of experience, so that at least I could give you some advice over the areas where I made mistakes and some of the areas where I was successful. Let's see. Alright, still I'm scrolling down looking for questions. A lot of this section of live chat I was interacting a lot during the coding, so things that I've already talked about I'm just kind of skipping over. Okay, actually Rohan has a good comment here. So previously we were talking about Homebrew, and I was trying to explain a little bit about what it does, but I like what Rohan says here. He says Homebrew is a package manager for apps for Mac, just like NPM is for Node packages. So on Linux you would have apt and yum. So if you think of it like that, I think that's definitely on the right track. That'll make it easier if you've never done anything with Homebrew. Basically the same thing. Does a very similar thing. And then I forget the one that's for PHP, but PHP has something similar. Let's see. Okay, Rook asks if there's a Windows counterpart for Homebrew. Rohan says it's chocolatey. Okay, that's awesome. I actually didn't know that. I haven't really done anything on Windows for a few years now, but when I did a lot of development on Windows, I had no idea. So that's awesome. So for everyone on a Mac, check out Homebrew as a package manager, but if you're on a Windows machine, check out Chocolatey. Harsha reminded me that my timer was not visible, so sorry about that. I always forget. I got to get used to putting it somewhere else. I'm seeing all the Harsha trying to get my attention, typing in all caps. So sorry for all the stress that my inattention caused you there. I appreciate you being persistent in trying to get my attention, though. Oh, okay. Earlier I was checking, I think I was checking on a different screen, but I was mentioning local storage and cookies. So I wanted to know where the login information was being stored. So if you didn't catch that, I was able to log in on this tab, and then this tab was still on the login screen, and I just refreshed. I was automatically logged in. Basically, there's a cookie stored. Now, currently, the live version of this, that's non-React version, uses local storage to accomplish the same thing. Basically, to store user data so that the login session can persist. So as long as you don't log out or clear your cookies, then it should persist. So I'm actually not sure. If anyone has any opinion on which is better, to use cookies or to use local storage, let me know. I'd be interested to see if there's some good reason to use one or the other. I know, I believe cookies have to be smaller, so you have the opportunity to store more on local storage. In this case, we're not really storing that much, so it shouldn't be an issue. But if anyone's worked with that or has any opinion on that, please let me know. Okay, Harsha, earlier I was talking about how there might be an issue for someone else to log in. Harsha said I was setting up. Said you said that you need the Franciscan.edu auth guard. I simply implemented it. Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not upset that you implemented it. I'm actually really glad that you did that because that's exactly what we need. For when this goes live. I was just trying to think of an easy way for other people to be able to contribute to the project, maybe without having to set up a database and everything. Because I still want this to be as beginner friendly as possible. You know, there's some little things that people who are new could contribute to the project, but they may not be able to figure out. I mean, the whole database thing, I needed your help to figure that out as well. So I just wanted to try to think of some way to make it a bit easier. So I'm thinking maybe I could put something in to where it checks whether it's in development mode or production, and if it's in dev mode, we just disable the login. And then if it's in production, then it is enabled. And then that might be the better way. So we'll definitely still want to enable it and test it before we go live with it, but when we're doing like UI work and things, maybe we can just disable that. I know occasionally it's a pain, like on the live version. If I want to use, I have authentication enabled all the time, even if I'm running it locally, and it's tough if I use like Browser Stack to test. The browsers in Browser Stack don't have my local storage data. So I have to log in, have another email sent, and log in again on every different machine I want to be on if I want to test it on a phone or something like that. So I end up having to log in quite a bit. So it would be cool if we came up with a simple way to disable the login for testing purposes. So anyway, I just don't want you to think that was wrong to implement that. That was perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. Oh, okay. Rook's asking, what do all those warnings actually mean? The incorrect peer dependency. Yeah, let's check that out. Look at all these things. All right, let me read down and see if anybody else said anything. Let's see. Okay, it looks like Dragon Hunter said I can RMRF node modules and then run yarn. So would that get rid of this? I'll try that out. Okay, so actually this will be cool to run. So if you end up having weird problems with your node modules, I have done this in the past and it has fixed some of my problems. It doesn't always, but occasionally. Basically, this is like completely wiping out all your node modules and reinstalling everything and starting from scratch. Let's do it. It's not going to hurt the project. It's just going to take a couple minutes to get everything back. But if you're using, so we're going to use this RMRF. Oops, RF. Do not use this unless you're really sure. Because what this is going to do, RM is just remove, right? But this is going to remove everything in a folder. So all subfolders, all files, everything. So only use this if you're really sure that you want everything to be gone. Alright, this stuff does not go in the recycle bin. This is gone, like forever gone. So, having said that, I know that I'm okay with my node modules being gone. I've done this, plenty of times. So our node modules, and when I run this, everything's going to be gone, and our node modules folder is going to be gone. So let's go cd. Right, I can't even get to that. That doesn't exist. Okay, our node modules. So now we're going to run yarn, and no, we're still getting the same errors. Okay, so I guess that didn't fix it. It's incorrect period dependency. I don't really know what the issue is. Maybe if I updated all of our packages, it might work. I'm hesitant to do that right now because sometimes when you upgrade packages, it breaks something if there are breaking changes within the packages. So I'd rather not do that at the end of a day, the end of a work day. But let's just double check everything still works. It should work. So let's refresh. Alright, great. Still works. See? Alright, let's go back to the live chat. Oh, cool. Dragon Hunter says, actually, that grid is neat. So good job. Yeah, definitely. Good job, Harsha. Really like that. Okay, Rook said, I just got an email from Code Academy that they teach grid now in their CSS course. Doing that later, Git course first. Awesome. Yeah, that's the CSS grid is really good for a lot of things. This is probably one of the very few use cases that I would want to go with something else, just for this in particular. CSS is good. It's great. It's always getting better. But there's still no easy way to do something like this with CSS and be able to have as much control over layout as you could, with doing this with JavaScript. Oh, okay. John Hansen says grid. So CSS grid has grid auto flow, row column, row dense, column dense, which gives very tight fit, and you can set min max on the rows and columns. Cool. Actually, I would love to see an example of something like this done with CSS grid, if it's possible to do something that truly looks like this. If there's a pure CSS way to do it, I'm definitely open to it. So I'm not aware, at least the last time I tried to implement something like this with just normal CSS, as far as I could tell with researching it, there was not a way to get this exact layout. But maybe something's happened since then with CSS Grid that allows it. Blake says, my drawer.js isn't displaying all my categories. Actually, Blake, if you're having trouble with some of your files, send me a link to your repo. Let me know what's going on. I can take a look at it if you want me to. Harsha says, so you now like passwordless npm module? I don't have an opinion about it yet, because I've only worked with it in terms of just reading the documentation to be able to understand what you did and try to troubleshoot. So I don't know that I've used it enough to reasonably have an opinion about it, but it's definitely working to do what we wanted to do in terms of the passwordless login. So I do like the results. Harsha says, "Will I get a T-shirt?" He says, "I have 20 PRs." Yeah, for sure. You have enough pull requests just on this project alone. I mean, I'm assuming you did sign up for Hacktoberfest, so assuming you signed up, you'll definitely get the shirt. Okay, John Hansen saying, so in React, to change state on an imported component, on click, go up the DOM to retrieve a key value, then uses that key to array.find, using the key to locate it and pull in the data. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not really sure how that works behind the scenes, so I don't know that I could comment enough on the mechanics of what is happening behind the scenes in React. Okay, cool. It looks like a few of you are interested in freelancing advice. Oh, cool. Thanks, Harshad. I had mentioned there was a package manager for PHP, but I couldn't remember what it was. It's Composer. All right, that makes sense. I was thinking it started with like a COM. I was thinking Compass, but I knew it wasn't. I was just thinking that because we used something called Compass earlier, or at least we were going to use it. So awesome. It's called Composer for PHP. So for any I know we have some PHP people that watch the stream, so if you haven't already used it, check out Composer as a package manager for PHP. Oh, cool. And Zuber mentions that Rails have Gem, so Gem's the package manager, and for .NET, the package manager is Nugget. Awesome. Thanks for that, Zuber. I don't know that I've seen you that much in the live chat commenting, so I don't know if you're new here to the chat, or you're just usually not able to comment in the live chat that frequently. But anyway, welcome, and thanks for contributing. Okay, Ina asks, where do you find customers for freelance projects? Okay, cool. I'll answer. Like I said, I think I'm going to do a video and go in more depth into this, but I'll definitely answer this about freelancing right now. So the question is, where do you find customers for freelance projects? So I'm just going to speak from my experience and maybe try to give some advice, some more general advice. But for me, I'll tell you what didn't work. So I think I got one customer through my website, through the contact form on my website. Only one ever. Now, I'm sure that my website helped because people could go there first and check me out, or, whatever. it probably did help, but the contact form on my site was not really that useful. I did sign up for several different freelancing sites. So I think I did, is it just called Freelancer? Maybe it was called Freelancer. So I did that one. I did, shoot, what was the other one? They still send me messages all the time. No, I can't remember what it was. Okay, so I basically did one where they send you potential customers and you can bid on the project. So basically you have to buy like tokens to be able to bid on it. I only got one customer from that, and it was a really small customer. I don't think I made more than $100 off of working with that customer. So that wasn't great. The same thing with the freelance website. I didn't really have a great experience. It seems like you have to get projects, you just have to undercut everybody else in terms of price so low that it's basically like working for free. It takes a lot of work to get enough reputation on those things. So I don't personally recommend that unless you really have nowhere else to go and you just want to get some work for your portfolio. Then, go ahead and go to those freelance websites. What worked for me the most was personal connections. And I know when I heard this when I was starting out freelancing, I didn't want to hear that, right? Because I want to just be able to sit at my computer and code and get customers. But that's not really how it works. Freelancing is about selling yourself just as much as it's about coding. So you have to be willing to talk to people and let them know what you do, and be able to show them some of your projects. Basically, to talk about how great you are and how great work you have. So if you're not comfortable with that, I would rethink freelancing, or at least think of a different strategy. So here's what I did starting out that really helped me. I found someone who was willing to do the work to find customers, and then they would give me the projects to work on, but they would be the go-between between the customer and between me. So I didn't have to handle contracts. I didn't have to go to meetings with a customer. I rarely had to speak on the phone with customers or email with them. This person did all the work. Now the downside of that is that I made a lot less than I could have if I had done everything. But it was nice because I got to focus all my energy, all my time on just doing the work, doing the coding. So I was able to learn a lot more than I otherwise would have if I had to handle everything. Now through that, I was able to build up my portfolio and focus on the coding, and then I was able, little by little, to get some clients. So at first, maybe it was through family connections. I just let my people in my family know, aunts, uncles, cousins, hey, I'm working on this. And then they would mention it to people that they knew. So I got some work from that. Didn't make a ton of money off of it, but I was still trying to build my portfolio. I was able to, through social media, let people know what I was doing. So I reached an even bigger audience of people that I still knew in real life and was friends with, but then they could bring me connections. So I had some of my best clients came from a connection of someone who was a former student of mine when I used to teach high school. Their boyfriend needed a website, and then I did a website for their boyfriend. Their boyfriend's one of his best friends needed a website for their company, saw what I did, and then wanted me to work on their websites. So I ended up getting into the New York City market through them, even though I live far away from New York City. Then through them, the CEO of that company, his mom and dad run several other companies in New York, and I was able to do websites for them. That ended up being one of my best clients. I made the most money off of. It was very nice working relationship, steady income. The biggest client I ever had in terms of money, I got because through social media, someone who my wife went to college with worked for a company, and her father was the CEO of the company. Found out through my wife that I did websites because she had just asked on social media, hey, does anybody know anything about websites? And my wife was able to say, yeah. Got a client from that. That was when I did that website and finally finished it and got paid, that increased my income by 25% that year, just from that one website. So basically my point is, my best clients came from personal connections. Sometimes I didn't actually know the people, but people I knew those people. So like I said, maybe you might be comfortable with this, maybe you won't. But what you really should be doing if you want to make freelancing work is talking about what you do to the people around you. You don't have to be annoying about it. You don't have to only talk about that. But make sure that everybody on social media knows who you are and what you can do. Make sure that all your friends and family know what you can do. And that's going to be your best clients. If you want to advertise otherwise, so I did paid ads on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Google ads. I did all those different ads. I did not get customers from those ads. It was a good experience. I learned how to use all those products and be able to advise clients on how to use them. Search engine optimization, it helped to get my website up to the first page of Google near the top for my local area, but my best clients weren't from the local area anyway, so that really wasn't a big deal. So all those things are good because clients will expect you to have them. They'll expect you to have good SEO. They'll expect you to have a good presence on social media and stuff. And if you don't have that, they might start to doubt, well, like, does this person really know what they're doing? They can't even manage their own website and brand. So you have to do those things, but don't expect that those things are going to bring you in a ton of clients. Maybe if you were well known enough at some point, it would help, but at first, personal connections are where it's at. So I went on for a really long time about that, sorry. But it's really important. The other option that you have, I mentioned I found someone who was willing to be the go-between between the clients and I. There are services that do that as well. If you can't find a personal connection that would want to do that for you. So TopTal is an organization that you take a series of tests so that they know that you're a good developer, and then they set you up with clients. They handle all the contracts with clients. They're the ones that pay you directly. The clients don't pay you directly. So it cuts down on a lot of that stuff that is not always easy to deal with, right? I've had situations where clients didn't pay me when they were supposed to pay me, and it can be a mess, and it really is stressful when you're counting on income for your family and a company is not paying you. So that's a tough situation. That's another thing I do recommend. Always have a contract. I worked without contracts for a long time, and I never had problems, and I thought it was fine until somebody decided not to pay me. And after that, I never did work without a contract. So you might be able to get lucky for it for a while. I got lucky with it for like 2 years. But then I had a client not pay me, and it took forever to get paid. Luckily, I did finally get paid, but it was months after I was supposed to receive payment. So anyway, I know I just threw a lot at you. Hopefully I'll have some time to put that in a more organized format in a video at some point, but let me know. If you have any other questions, let me know. Maybe it'll be good. I can write all the questions down and then try to make sure I answer them in my video. Blake asks, what should I use for wireframing on Windows for free? I'm not sure. On Windows, what is the thing? Adobe came out. Is it called Adobe XD? It was something like that. But I don't know if it was free. It might have just been free when they were testing it. So I'm not sure. I don't have anything that I use for Windows, so I don't know of anything. But if anyone else knows of anything good and free to do wireframes on Windows, please put that in the live chat now. Oh, okay, John Hansen says, I think the big guys like Google are pushing for developers to use local storage. Dragon Hunter says, go for local storage or local forage module. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we'll check into that, switching it over to local storage. Harsha says it will definitely be harder to set that up, so we'll check it out. Maybe we'll see how difficult it will be, if it'll be worth it to set it up. For this project, I'm not worried one way or the other. If we're going to switch it over, I would want to do it because if that's the best practice to do, then I think it would be cool to do that on the stream, just to show this is how we should do things. But otherwise, I think cookies will be more than adequate for this use case. Let's see. Rohan says it's quite the irony because most of Google's services rely heavily on cookies. Most don't even touch local storage. Yeah, you're right. That's definitely true. Rook says Google is weird like that. They don't even use Angular, from what I've heard. I don't know. I usually check what sites are made out of. I haven't done that for a while with Google sites though. Rowan says, using Google APIs, it's quite common that you'd see them say to do the opposite of what they usually say, would usually do. Really frustrating, but that's Google. They use Angular across many things now. Oh, okay, so Dragon Hunter says HTTP only cookies are not vulnerable to XSS attacks, so cross-site scripting attacks, but to CSRF attacks, so the session could be hijacked. Okay. Actually, to be honest with you, for this project, the data is not really sensitive. Most of the data that ends up in the bulletin is also publicly available through other channels, so I'm not that worried about it. To be honest with you, I never thought that this bulletin should have to be password protected. That was a decision made higher up, and I fought against it, but I lost, so I'm not super worried about the security in terms of if somebody really wants to find out, what's going on in the bulletin. Like, they're gonna know the dates of when you can go get training on PowerPoint, and they're gonna know what open positions that we have at the university, which you can already find out on the main website. They're going to see the chapel schedule for when there are mass times, which you can already see on the main website. So there are very few things. I would argue there's pretty much nothing that couldn't be public knowledge. But anyway, I was told that it needs to be password protected, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to provide a reasonable level of security. But I'm not going to kind of over-engineer this so that we're protected from everything that could possibly happen. If at some point we end up working with more sensitive data, then definitely, yes, I think we should be as safe as we can. But I think it potentially could be a waste of our time to really try to make this solid and airtight and no one can get in. Harsha says, I remember some guy named a folder, it's the little tilde icon, and and he did rmrf tilde, and his whole data was wiped. Yeah, yeah. For like, you could literally wipe out everything on your hard drive with rmrf. So like, don't use it unless you for sure know what's going on. Dragon Hunter says to choose between CSRF and XSS, definitely take measures about XSS and forget about CSRF, so local storage all the way. Oh, okay. Rook says, I heard some guys on the Syntax podcast talking about how scary RMRF is. They suggest using something called Trash. It's on Brew. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll look into that. Like right now, I rarely use RMRF. When I do use it, obviously, like I'm very careful about it. But if I find myself having to use it more often, it might not be a bad idea to switch to something a little safer. Dragon Hunter says, is there a yarn lock like NPM? Yeah, so there is a yarn lock file. And then in a new version of NPM, there's the equivalent file. Oh, okay. Harshit's saying, basically, since I'm using React 16, many packages are not updated to that. So that's probably why I'm getting the warnings. Okay, Dragon Hunter says RMRF node modules works with NPM. It seems to not with yarn. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you really wanted to get rid of it, you should get rid of your yarn lock file too. So you could get rid of all the node modules and your yarn lock, and then you could reinstall it from that way if you really wanted it to be totally clean slate. Oh, Rohan says you could also use the force flag to force reinstall of all node packages. All right, good to know. Thanks, Rohan. Oh, okay. I think John Hansen is explaining more his question earlier about React, like moving up to get a, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he's saying Vanilla.js allows easily moving up and down the DOM to create comparison statements, true false to render an object. I'm not sure if it's smart to do the same in React. Okay. I'm not sure. I might need to see a use case to give a decent answer to that. So anyway, so John, if you have a use case, then maybe I could give an opinion on that. Okay, Worlds asks, how much would you charge or get for an average project? Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest here about what I charge and what I get. So I'm not gonna name names of clients, and they may not want people to know what I get paid, but I'll try to be vague about that. But I'll tell you. So when I started out 5 years ago, I started out getting work from someone else for $10 an hour. So, which is a little bit crazy, right? I had 2 kids at the time, and I'm getting paid $10 an hour working less than full-time doing this web work. But the deal was basically the guy, he knew me personally, but he had no proof of my skills. He just knew that back in high school I was smart and I was into technology stuff. And he knew he could trust me. So started me out and would say like, hey, I'll pay you $10 an hour, but what I'll do is, if you have a project that I need you to work on and you don't know how to do it, I'll say, take 2 hours, I'll pay you for 2 hours to learn it, and then do it, right? So I was able to learn a lot. So I considered it like an internship, almost like a paid internship, which it really was kind of like that. I learned a lot. Now, what he did say as well is that every, 3 months or something, I'd be up for a raise. So I ended up making more than that quickly. Now, along the way, I moved up. Certainly, whenever I got my own clients, I would charge more. I got to the point where one of my last projects that I worked on, I did a React site that pulled data in from the WordPress API, very similar to what we did on Project 1 that we worked on. It was almost identical in terms of the structure of the project as Project 1, which was the Catechetical Institute website, and this project I did, and I believe I made $11,700, something like that, somewhere around. So like around $1,200 or $12,000 for that website. So there was a whole range of stepping up what I would charge people, and then it did sometimes depend on who I was doing the work for. A nonprofit. Occasionally, I would do work for free for a nonprofit if I really wanted to volunteer, or I would give a discount. Sometimes, if someone that was family or a friend wanted something, give them a discount. But in general, when you're freelancing, it's always best to charge more than you think it's really worth, because you have to consider more than just the project at hand, because there's going to be overhead. So there's going to be meetings with the client, phone calls, Skype, video conferencing. There's going to be work on you getting a contract made and discussing that, getting that signed. You're going to have to spend time sending bills, making sure your client actually sends the bills, so reminding them about that. Potentially even having disputes over billing. There's going to be all this extra stuff. Then you have to worry about doing your taxes. There's all this other stuff that's involved that you need to account for in the price. So you're always going to end up charging more as a freelancer than you'd be willing to accept as a salary if you were on somebody's payroll. And then don't forget about insurance as well, health insurance. Sometimes your employer would cover that, but now you are your own employer. So always factor in more. At this point with my work, I would probably, depends on the project. Potentially, if it was some project I was really passionate about, maybe I would do it for less, but I wouldn't even consider doing work for anyone right now for less than $100 an hour if I was going hourly. If we're talking a flat rate, I don't know that it would be worth my time to work on anything for less than like $5,000. I just wouldn't want to deal with the whole process of building trust with a client and contracts and billing and all that and taxes unless I was making a decent chunk of money. Like I said, it depends on the project. If it's something I really wanted to work on, then I would probably be willing to do less. If something happened and I really needed money, I'd probably be willing to do less. But that's where I'm at right now. I have income coming in that I'm able to pay my bills, so I'm in a different position. If I was at a point where I really needed to build up my portfolio, I'd probably be willing to work for less. Also, it depends on where you're at. If I lived in San Francisco, I would never work for that little. I would want even more money because the cost of living is so much more. I happen to live in the part of the United States where the cost of living is pretty low. The area I live is economically depressed, so I can charge less. People in big cities would obviously want to charge more, and then depending on what country you're from, it depends. I don't know what, the economies could be entirely different. So anyway, keep that in mind, especially if your area, like my area, is economically depressed. Try to build up your client base outside that area. For me, I ended up building a client base in New York City. I actually also had a client that she was based in Hawaii, but she traveled quite a bit. So I don't know how often she actually lived in Hawaii. But those clients ended up being the most profitable because for their market, my prices seemed like really good deal for them. For me, I'd make from them more than anybody else was willing to pay in my local area. So it was a great deal for both of us. They were getting a better deal than they could get in their area, and so was I. So those kind of seek out those kind of deals, and then, you and the client can both be really happy about what you're making. Hopefully that helped. The original question was how much you charge or get for an average project. So that was probably way more than you wanted from that question, but I hope it helped you out at least some. Blake asks, are Vim and Emacs considered code editors / IDEs? I think Vim and Emacs would fall under the code editor category. I don't think they're considered IDEs. I don't use them though. I mean, I've tried out Vim, but I don't actively use Vim. So I don't know. Maybe for some, I know there are some people who watch the stream that do use Vim. So please correct me if I'm wrong about that. Okay, Harsha's asking a question about a specific piece of code. So let me get this on the screen. Let's see. Okay, let me pull this over here. All right, so let's check this code out. So Harsha's question is, okay, so see the verified label. I've set up GPG keys. What do you think about this? All right. Actually, I've never used these before, so let me see. Okay, cool. So I mean, I think that's cool. That's fine to do. What's the main benefit of the GPG key? Oh, okay. So earlier I mentioned Adobe XD. I didn't know what the status of that was. So it seems like the beta version is still free. So if I guess if you can get a hold of the beta version, then you could use it. John Hansen says, "True, Jesse. Talking about what you do and know is a great selling strategy. I've had offers to build sites I've had to turn down as I've got my job besides some websites are beyond my skills." Yeah, actually, that reminds me as well. If you know other developers and get to talk to them, they may send you projects. Like I know I've had people ask me about doing websites for them, and I've just been too busy at the time, and so I've passed those projects along to other developers that I know, and sometimes it works out really well for those developers. So if you get to know other developers and let them know that you're open to doing work, if they trust you and they've seen what you can do and they know it's good work, then they probably will have no problem sending people to you. So that's another good way to find work. Harsha asked if I've installed Compass. Not yet. It finished downloading. I didn't install it yet though. But Harsha says you should see the database structure there. Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. Let's see. If this bulletin was a real project, how much would you have charged? Okay, let me think about this. So the bulletin. So the bulletin site is basically a blog site, right? It's a blog site. It's set up WordPress. You have two different servers to set up. Probably not going to run load balancing. It's not that important that it needs it. I'm going to set up the SSL. Now, the complicated thing, I guess, is the login. And we may even have more to the login than we currently have, depending on what happens with the IT department here. Let's see. We're going to have custom stuff done on the WordPress end, so there is going to be custom post types. We're already running the GraphQL plugin. So it's a significant project. I mean, this would be... this project, I'm thinking, like now obviously this depending on the organization and factors, such as my time and things like that. But I'm thinking this website would probably end up being, more closer to like a $10,000 site. So I would maybe set that as a minimum of a $10,000 site. I mean, that's just kind of off the top of my head. If I was really going to price this out, I would sit down and so like how I do with my Trello boards and I break things down. If I was really going to give an estimate, I would break all the work down like that, estimate how long I'd take everything, factoring in the obvious like delays that normally happen and the other stuff that you need to do on a project. So, but a very loose estimate would probably be I probably wouldn't do it for less than 10,000. So that would, I mean, and that also includes like, I'm doing this for clients, so there would be rigorous testing, there would be training involved. I would probably do training videos and some in-person training for whoever's going to be inputting the data. So it's not necessarily just the development. I would include that in the cost as well. But anyway, that's what I would charge now. But like I said, it does really make a difference. There are times when if I'm really busy and someone wants me to do a website, I'll quote them something more than I normally would because my time is more scarce, therefore it's more valuable to me. So to make it worth my while to work on that project, which basically means for me is I'm not going to see my family while I'm doing that work, right? So for me, I guess there's two sides to the pricing. Is how much value can you bring to the client, which is important because that's what they care about. But then there's also how much do you value your own time, which is also important because that's what you care about. So you need to think about both things. And as long as what you value your time to be corresponds roughly to what they think the value you're going to bring to them through your website is going to be, then everybody's happy, right? So you just got to meet up. You got to find clients that kind of match up with that. So, I mean, and obviously when you're thinking about how much you're going to charge, like, you do think about your own experience and your skills as well. But, because that'll help you to convince people that you're worth that much. Anyway, hopefully that helps. I don't know, how much would you all charge where you're from, your area, and your skill set? What do you think? So if anybody has any estimates, I know it's really hard to make estimates right on the spot, but if anybody has estimates about what it would be like in your area of the world in terms of price, let me know. I'm really interested to hear that. Okay, so the GPG code just actually verifies that that's really the person that says it is. Okay, cool. That's what I figured. I just kind of want to know if there was some other reason. So, yeah, I like that. That's cool. Dragon Hunter said, you should do some podcasting. You sound like an authority figure. I don't know about that. I don't actually have any authority. I guess if I have authority, it would only be if people value what I say. That would be the only authority that I would have. But I have experience, though. So for whatever that's worth, I can definitely give that. Mikhail says, hey Jesse, watching Project 2 Day 2 now and saw that you went live. Not really have the chance to watch on live, but thanks mate, good work, keep it up. Oh, awesome, thanks for stopping in and saying that. I really appreciate that. And hopefully you can join us live at some point and let me know what you think or any questions that you have or suggestions. But anyway, yeah, thanks again. Let's see. Blake says $10,000, wow. Harsha says, you know $10,000 is a year income in India? I didn't know that, but that's cool to know. World says it used GraphQL and React. Yeah, I mean, think about, I think that's an important point to remember. World's saying use GraphQL and React. Like, a client might not necessarily know what GraphQL and React is or even care, but as a developer, like, we know the value in that. That React and GraphQL are really the technologies that are, I don't want to say emerging because React's been around for a while and GraphQL's been around for a while, but in terms of like very widespread adoption, you know, the vast majority of the internet is still jQuery territory, right? I mean, as much as developers, you know, kind of want to stay away from it, realistically, it's used on a huge portion of the internet, right? So some of these newer technologies that aren't really new to us because we're developers, but in the grand scheme of things, in terms of how much they're really used on the internet, they are pretty new. They're pretty cutting edge. So the value of being able to use those technologies, I think, warrants a higher price tag. Now, you may have trouble convincing the average person, the average client, of why this is important for their site, how this will help their site to be better, right? So while for a project like this, maybe it would be hard to find a client who's willing to see the value in this and want to pay that much. So, but if I were to do a site that had everything that we're doing, using all the technology that we're using, I would want to charge at least $10,000. So there's definitely that. Do I think I could find a client locally that would pay $10,000? No, not in my local area. Could I find one somewhere else? Definitely. I've no doubt about it. I personally have known. I know what companies have paid for websites. I've worked on those websites as a subcontractor. I know enough to know that there are a lot of companies out there, government organizations and institutions, that are willing to pay an obscene amount of money for products that aren't even really that good. So if you're starting out, $10,000 seems like a lot, especially if you're dealing with like local small businesses. But when you get to another level of client, which should be the goal if you really want to make money, when you get up there to the larger organizations, $10,000 is nothing to them. You know, they're dealing with budgets of millions of dollars. So if they're gonna drop $100,000 on a website and budget that out and say, okay, we're gonna do a website every 3 or 4 years, we're gonna get an update, $100,000 for this, so it breaks down to, maybe $20,000 a year, $25,000 a year, and they're gonna think that's not really a big deal. Right? That doesn't even cover our electric bill. Or they're going to think in terms of, I'm going to spend $25,000 a year on a website. I buy one truck for my company, and it's probably going to cost me $20,000, $25,000. Right? In their mind, like you got to put it to them like that. Right? The website is the public face of a business. How much do people spend on building a building for their business and making it look nice? Millions, right? And people have homes that are in the millions of dollars. So a business, to build their actual physical business, will think nothing about spending millions on it. Their website, they're going to be able to reach more people. So put in terms like that of how important it is, $10,000 is nothing. I could come out with $10,000 to some companies and they would laugh at me and say no, because they're thinking, the work that this guy's doing must be terrible if he thinks he can only get $10,000 off of this, right? So when you're thinking about things like that, don't get discouraged. Try to think in terms of what are the budgets for these companies, Now, if you're dealing with a really small business that has 3 employees and stuff, don't walk in and say, I'm going to build you a website and it's going to cost $10,000. They're going to say, you got to be kidding me. Like, my rent every month is less than $1,000. I'm not going to pay you $10,000 for a website. Because potentially that could be, around here where I live, it's reasonable that some people have really low rents for their buildings, so because the area is so depressed. In other areas of the United States, that's kind of ridiculous, but anyway, just try to think I guess I'm trying to give you a little pep talk at least to keep your mind open to the reality of what businesses spend and how they're thinking and what they are already paying for products. So don't sell yourself short just because something might seem easy, right? To us building this, there's been some trouble, right? There's been some hard things. Right, that grid layout, that masonry layout was a pain for Harsha to put in, and the whole authorization login system was really impressive, and that took some time. But really, for us, this seems like, no big deal. We do this every day. But there's not a whole lot of people in the world that can do this kind of thing and do it professionally and be trustworthy and have it work and be able to handle a lot of people. That there's value in that, especially big businesses see value in that. So don't sell yourself short. Anyway, I keep going off on these big tangents. I need to just make this freelancing video and then direct you all to that, or my live streams are going to end up being 3 hours long every day. Okay. Okay, so for this same project, Rohan is saying in India, if he were to try to sell the same project, he would charge about 3,500 US dollars equivalent in India. Rohan says there really isn't much demand for web pages or services here in India. Small businesses will go for the cheapest bidder, and large companies either have their own team or will contract with the whole team. John Hansen says great advice. Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, the worst a client can say if you come out with a really outrageous offer, or offer that seems outrageous to them, you know, a quote for a price, the worst they can do is say no. But, you know, so what? They say no. Maybe you don't really want to work for a company that doesn't value what you do enough to pay you what the work is really worth. So just don't be afraid. It's a bad path to go down, to constantly be apprehensive about what a client's going to think is reasonable and try to always undercut yourself. Because you go down that path, and where does it stop? You end up doing quality work for less money than you should, and then you get the type of client who doesn't value your work. So even though you know you're giving them a great deal, they don't understand that, and that's not really the type of client you want to be involved with. I've been there. I've been involved with that type of client. You're giving them a great deal, and they're trying, and when at the end of the day, what they do is they try to, you know, if you're saving them $1,000 off of what they would pay, they're still going to try to squeeze out, you know, an extra $100 off you in the end, and say, well, I'm not paying for this because something's off with it, right? That's what ends up happening. So just go for good quality clients that are willing to pay what something's worth, and you'll be much happier. If you have to take the cheaper stuff to build your portfolio up, there's nothing wrong with that. If you have to take some of that stuff to pay the bills and take care of your family, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been there and I've done that. But when you get to a point where you're comfortable enough with your finances that you can afford to take some risks, go for the bigger clients. And then once you get there and get those clients in your portfolio, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, let's see. Blake says, thanks. Did you see the link for the repo? I did not see the link for the repo. Did you paste it in the live chat? I missed it. If you could paste it again, that'd be great. I could try to go back through and look for it, but it'll be more of a sure thing if you could paste it again. Oh, Harsha says, yes, he tried doing UI for emails tomorrow. Alright, if you really want me to do UIs for email, I will do that. But for those of you that have worked on UI for emails, you understand where I'm coming from, I'm sure. If you haven't, you'll see. It's not the easiest thing. But I'll do it if that's what you all want to see. Okay, cool. Thanks, Blake. I got the URL now. All right. World says companies aren't apprehensive in selling you a smartphone for $1,000. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, think about what companies expect you all to pay for their services, and then, you know, maybe it'll make it easier for you to charge them more. All right, so Blake, Blake, let me know what in particular you want me to check out on this repo, and I'll try to check it out. And you don't have to tell me now. If you want to make an issue on the repo, then we could talk about it, in the comments to that issue if you want. However you want to do it. Okay. Well, I'm to the end of the live chat now. I think we had a great chat. We probably spent more time talking than we did with coding, but today's, I feel like, is the first time in a while that we accomplished everything that we wanted to accomplish. Actually, a little bit more. I didn't even expect to do the masonry layout and get that all merged in. So we actually accomplished even more. I know I ended up talking a lot, so sorry if it was too much, but I hope I helped some of you out in sharing my experiences with freelancing. But this stream's been really long, and I'm actually really hot and sweating right now because it's hot in my office. I didn't want to turn the fan on and mess up the audio, so I've got to get a drink and get out of this office. My wife just called me too, so I'm going to see what she needs, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for all your help. Harsha, especially thank you, and Sebastian for your pull requests. You all have been great. And I mean, Harsha, I know you're talking about freelancing stuff and you're still a student and you're young, so that makes it hard, but you have skills. You definitely have skills. So you just need the right connections, and I think you'll be fine in terms of doing work. Right now, though, when you're young, this is a great opportunity to study and work on those side projects that you really, really want to. If you need the money, I totally understand if you got to take some projects, but otherwise I wouldn't worry about freelancing so much right now. I would try to take advantage of this time in your life to work on things that you really want to work on. Because once you start working for clients, you don't have the same amount of freedom like you could now. So, but anyway, I think you have a lot of talent. And I think so many of you in the live chat and that watch the shows have so much talent. I'm always impressed with what you all show me. So anyway, thank you, and I will be back tomorrow. So until then, have a great day.